Pole position in Monaco should be the holy grail. You're at the front, the track is tighter than a London car park, and overtaking is basically illegal. On paper, it's job done. But in reality, Monaco laughs in your face. Take Senna in 1988. He delivered a qualifying lap so outrageous he was almost 2 seconds clear of Prost. 2 seconds? That's not just pole. That's pole with a restraining order. Come Sunday, he was leading by nearly a minute. The win was his, until he casually stuck it in the wall like it was a video game rage quit. And then Charles Leclerc in 2021, the hometown hero, he grabbed pole, and Monte Carlo partied like he'd already won the Grand Prix. Problem, his qualifying crash had damaged the gearbox. On Sunday morning, Ferrari tried to be optimistic. 5 minutes later, his car broke before it even reached the grid. He ended up watching his own race from the pit wall, probably wishing he'd brought a deck chair. Even more cruel. In 2015, Lewis Hamilton looked certain to win, until Mercedes accidentally called him in for a pit stop so badly timed it made F1 strategists everywhere question their life choices. Hamilton rejoined in third. On Monaco's narrow streets, that's the same as last. Pole sitter, dominant leader, robbed by his own team. There's also the small matter of the rain. Monaco punishes overconfidence like no other circuit. Drivers who dare to push just a bit too early end up spinning in front of billionaires on yachts, their car performing an impromptu pirouette into the barriers. Pole position isn't a promise, it's a gamble. And in Monaco, the house always wins. Formula One is supposed to be the cutting edge of science, physics, and logic. But slap the number 13 on a car, and suddenly everyone goes medieval with superstition. For decades, the number just wasn't used. It was missing from entry lists like it didn't exist. It was considered bad luck, like breaking a mirror, or trusting an upgrade from Haas. Only a couple of drivers ever dared to use it. In the 1970s, Davina Gallica ran 13 during her F1 attempts. She never qualified for a single race. Then along came Pastor Maldonado. Yes, that Maldonado. The man so crash-prone you could make a drinking game out of his highlights. He proudly chose 13 when driver numbers became permanent in 2014. Result? A season of spins, crashes and DNFs so bad that even his team forgot he existed. And the funniest part, even now, when new drivers get to pick numbers, nobody touches 13. Max Verstappen happily took 33, Valtteri Bottas went with 77. But 13, it sits there collecting dust, like the dodgy hotel room nobody wants. To add insult to injury, number 13 has developed a kind of meme status among fans. Social media exploded whenever anyone even mentioned 13 on an F1 weekend. It's the number everyone talks about, nobody wants to drive, and every failure just adds another chapter to its legend. 13 isn't just unlucky, it's a celebrity villain. Lotus were the mad geniuses of Formula One. Every time they turned up with a new car, it looked like something out of science fiction. Colin Chapman's motto was basically, if it's not braking, it's too heavy. He gave the world ground effect, trick suspension, even the twin chassis car. Brilliant, revolutionary. Except for one small problem. All of it kept getting banned. Lotus would spend months designing the car of the future, and the FIA would look at it, squint, and say, yeah, that's illegal now. And when their innovations did run, the cars were so fragile they'd snap in half if you sneezed near them. Drivers loved the speed but hated that finishing a race felt like winning the lottery. The curse of Lotus is that they were always one step ahead and one misfortune away from disaster. Derek Warwick once joked that racing a Lotus was like dating a supermodel, incredible in theory, but exhausting and likely to end in heartbreak. Their genius was undeniable, but their story is a constant reminder. In F1, being clever doesn't guarantee trophies. Sometimes it guarantees the FIA banning your toy before you even unwrap it. The Lotus curse isn't a myth, it's a blueprint for tragic brilliance. Most tracks punish mistakes with gravel or walls. Monaco, it just dunks you in the sea. Back in the 1950s and 60s, safety barriers weren't exactly safety barriers. At the harbour chicane, if you got it wrong, you didn't just crash, you became a submarine. Alberto Ascari in 1955 and Paul Hawkins in 1965 both ended up bobbing in the water next to luxury yachts, still strapped into their cars. One can only imagine the smell of seawater and burnt rubber mixing in their helmets. Mechanics had to fish cars out of the Mediterranean like they were retrieving lost shopping trolleys. Millions of pounds of F1 engineering, gone, floating like a sad, shiny buoy. Spectators reportedly cheered, half for the skill and half for the sheer absurdity of a race turning into an aquatic obstacle course. Even modern drivers aren't immune. Tight margins and misjudged corners can still result in an impromptu swim. drivers have been known to wave to the crowd mid-rescue, their cars drifting like awkward shiny dinghies. Monaco's harbour isn't just part of the track, it's a cruel reminder that this city isn't hosting a Grand Prix, it's hosting a survival challenge in designer helmets. The curse of the harbour. No matter how skilled you are, the moment the car touches the water, all preparation, all talent, all Michelin tyres become irrelevant. The sea doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about pole positions, strategy, or championship points. It just swallows you whole, leaving the rest of the grid wondering if they should have packed swim trunks instead of racing gloves. A Grand Slam in F1 means you've done the ultimate flex, pole position, fastest lap, led every lap, and won the race. Monaco, though, absolutely despises it. It's only been done once, by Ayrton Senna in 1989. And even that felt like he had to fight the track itself, dodging walls, strategy hiccups, and his own paranoia. Since then, zero. Not Hamilton, not Schumacher, not Verstappen, nobody's managed it. Whenever someone gets close, Monaco finds a way. The safety car comes out, someone bins it at Saint-Devote, a pit wall decides to try something different. The curse kicks in, and suddenly the perfect weekend falls apart. Even qualifying can be a nightmare. Drivers who dominate Friday and Saturday often hit an unseen speed bump or get caught in traffic. By the time the race rolls around, all their dominance has evaporated like Monaco's midday sun reflecting off the yachts. That's the beauty of it. Monaco doesn't just want you to win, it wants to see you sweat, suffer, and pray. A win is possible. A Grand Slam? Forget it. That's not racing, that's witchcraft. Once upon a time, Williams were the juggernauts. They had Adrian Newey, the best drivers, and cars that looked like cheat codes. The 1990s were theirs. And then, darkness. Their last win came in 2012 with Pastor Maldonado, yes, the human crash compilation himself, who by some miracle produced the race of his life in Spain. Williams popped champagne, the factory erupted, Frank Williams smiled. And since then, nothing. Every comeback attempt has ended in misery. New owners, new drivers, new hopes, and still, they find themselves clinging to the back like it's an endurance test. Watching them now is like watching your childhood hero stuck doing car commercials. The name is legendary, but the magic is gone. Even the drivers feel it. Every time they push the car to its limits, something fails. The engine blows, the gearbox snaps, or the electronics decide to take a nap. You can almost hear the ghost of Frank Williams sighing from the pit wall. The Williams curse is brutal. Once you lose momentum in F1, you don't just fall, you plummet. And crawling back to the top, that's the cruelest race of all. Number 27 should be Ferrari's proudest badge of honor. Gilles Villeneuve made it iconic in the early 80s, a number tied to raw speed, bravery, and passion. But ever since his tragic death, the number has been toxic. Michele Alboreto wore it and failed to win a single race. Nigel Mansell carried it and eventually stormed out of Ferrari in pure frustration. Jean Alesi finally broke the drought in 1995, taking an emotional win in Canada with the number 27. The Tifosi wept with joy, but the car broke down at Monza later that year while leading, just to remind everyone the curse wasn't gone. Even Schumacher, who later wore different numbers, reportedly avoided 27 during the 1990s because the history seemed haunted. Fans revere 27 as sacred, but every driver who wears it seems to suffer heartbreak. It's Ferrari's most romantic number, but also their most painful. The curse manifests in subtle ways too. Strategy errors, sudden mechanical failures, inexplicable spins, everything seems to target this number. 27 isn't just a number on a car, it's a lingering, winking reminder from the universe that glory can be heartbreakingly fleeting. Michael Andretti, American speed incarnate. His career in Formula One? A tragicomedy in high definition. You'd think winning races in IndyCar would translate directly to F1 glory. You'd be wrong. Spectacularly wrong. In 1993, Andretti arrived at McLaren full of bravado, talent, and probably an unhealthy supply of energy drinks. Everyone expected fireworks. What he got was a masterclass in bad luck. Mechanical failures, engine gremlins, and pit lane disasters seemed to coordinate against him like a Shakespearean villain. Andretti qualified well. The car would die on the formation lap. Andretti in podium position. Sudden electrical faults. It was as if the universe had outsourced a dedicated F1 curse team specifically for him. Fans watched in a mix of awe and sympathy. Commentators would describe his pace as blindingly fast, only to add, if he finishes the race. Pit crews wept quietly in the garages while Andretti radioed words that would make even a sailor blush. Meanwhile, rivals shook their heads, quietly muttering that Americans bring chaos as Michael's luck evaporated lap by lap. The curse isn't just about bad luck, it's systemic. Andretti never adapted fully to F1's subtleties, and F1 never adapted to him. Tyre temperatures, fuel loads, the tiniest differences in car setup, all seemed to conspire against him. One could argue it was a perfect storm of misfortune, talent, and perhaps too much enthusiasm. By the end of the season, Andretti left F1, returning to the US, leaving behind a trail of what-ifs and nearly wins. The Andretti curse lives on as a cautionary tale. Sometimes speed and skill aren't enough. Sometimes F1 itself simply doesn't want you to succeed. Fans still debate whether it was the car, the track, or some cosmic joke, but everyone agrees. If the F1 gods had a sense of humor, they were definitely American that year.